What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Financial Footprints Podcast. My name is Kolin. I am your host, and in today's episode, I'm going to talk about paying off debt. Two methods that you could use to help you pay down debts. Maybe you find yourself having multiple credit card debts, maybe personal debt, student loan debt. I'm not really talking about your mortgage, but more student loans, credit cards, personal debts, card debts that you might have that you need to pay off or that you're wanting to pay off. And these methods are two very popular methods that people choose to help them pay down their debt. Now, each of these methods, the debt snowball method and the debt avalanche method, are different in how they work. The end goal is the same. This is important to understand. The end goal is the same. And what is that? It is having no debt. It is being debt-free, usually minus your mortgage, but being debt-free. That is the end goal. But how you get there, the method and how you get there will differ if you take the debt snowball method or the debt avalanche method. So let me explain first what they are. The debt snowball method is most commonly used by Dave Ramsey. If you've ever listened to Dave Ramsey, he preaches the debt snowball method. So you list your debts in terms of dollar value from smallest to largest, and you start at the smallest dollar value debt first, regardless of interest rate. You don't care if that first smallest amount has a 30% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. You are listing your debts smallest to largest in terms of dollar value, regardless of interest rates. Then you pay the minimums on all of them, and then whatever money you have left over, you put all of that towards the smallest dollar value debt first. Once that smallest dollar value debt first is paid off, then you move on to the next smallest. Then you move on to the next smallest. Then you move to the next smallest. And as you pay off each debt, you take all the money that you were using to pay that off and roll it, snowball it into paying the next smallest debt. Once you pay off the second smallest debt, you take all the money you were using to pay off that and snowball it and roll it into the third smallest, into the fourth smallest, into the fifth smallest. This is creating that quote-unquote snowball effect that gives the name the debt snowball method. So you are listing smallest debts in terms of dollar value first, paying those off, and moving down the line. Now, the debt avalanche method, this is where it's different. The debt avalanche method is you list the debts in order from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. Does not matter the dollar value that's attached, but you're only focusing on the debt avalanche method on the interest rate of that debt. So you focused first, just like with the snowball method, you pay the minimums, but then all your extra money that you're using to pay off your debts, all that extra money goes towards your highest interest rate debt first. Then once that is paid off, you move to the second highest interest rate debt. And then you move to the third highest interest rate debt once that's paid off. And you move down the line. So the big difference, before I get into pros and cons, I just want you to understand what the differences are. The big difference, though, is that debt snowball, you're listing dollar value smallest to largest, where debt avalanche, you're listing from interest rate highest to lowest, and you're paying in that order. So what are the pros and cons of each of these methods? So with the debt snowball method, a pro is that it is very motivating. This is why I think Dave Ramsey is a huge fan of the debt snowball method, because when you're listing your smallest debt first, maybe your smallest debt is $700, and you have $300 a month extra after minimum payments to pay down your debts. Well, just in a matter of 2.5 months, give or take, you're going to be able to pay down your first debt, knock it off the bat, right? It gives you a quick win. It keeps you motivated. It boosts your morale to watch, hey, I had 7 debts I had to pay off. Now I only have 6. And it only took me 2.5 months to get there. It gives you the quick win. It boosts your morale. It keeps you motivated when you pay your smallest debt first, because you see it get knocked off the list. You go from 8 debts to 7. You go from 4 to 3. You go from 13 to 12. And because of that, there's a psychological benefit with that sense of accomplishment from clearing those debts quickly. Oh, it only took me 2.5 months to pay down this debt. The next one might take a little bit longer because of bigger dollar value, but I can feel the taste of success. I can feel the taste of motivation to win, so let me keep going. There's a psychological benefit by doing that. So the debt snowball method, Dave Ramsey likes it because you get the quick win and it's very motivational to keep going. However, a con of doing the debt snowball method is potentially it might cost you more in the long run, potentially. Depending on how your debts are set up, meaning dollar value and interest rate, maybe your largest dollar value debt also has your highest interest rate. Well, in the debt snowball method, that's the last one you're paying off. And because it's the last one you're paying off, that interest is working against you and making you have to pay more in the long run. But depending on how your debts are set up, you'd have to run the math, but potentially the debt snowball method might cost you more in dollar value in the long run. You might end up paying more in interest over time. That's a potential. There's no guarantee, but potentially that might happen. Now, the debt avalanche method, the pros and cons are just the opposite. With the debt avalanche method, a pro is, depending on how your debts are set up, it might be cheaper in terms of dollar value. You're going to pay less interest over time by using the debt avalanche method. Because you're focusing on high interest debts first, usually credit cards, 20, 25, 28%, since you're paying those first, you're not accruing interest. And because you're not accruing interest, as much at least, you're not spending more money to pay down your debts. So potentially, it's cheaper in the long run. It costs you less in interest in the long run to use the debt avalanche method. But some cons with the debt avalanche method is you don't potentially have those quick wins. Maybe you have $12,000 in credit card debt, and you also have a $1,000 student loan and a $6,000 student loan, but those are only at 5%. But you choose the debt avalanche method, you're having to pay the larger dollar amount first. So it might take you longer to pay off your first debt. Now, this is all circumstantial, right? Depending on, again, how much your largest interest rate is in terms of dollar value. But it potentially might take you longer to pay off your first debt. And because of that, for some people, and this is why I think Dave Ramsey is not a fan of the debt avalanche method, even though sometimes the math says do the debt avalanche method, some people need those quick wins. It might be discouraging to not see that quick progress, because if you can only set aside $300 a month and you have $12,000 in credit card debts and it's your highest interest rate, it's going to take you potentially years to pay off that debt. And that's not as motivating where it only took you 2.5 months if you had a $700 debt. That was at 7% or 3% as opposed to 22%, right? So it could be discouraging, especially for people that have a large dollar balance with a high interest rate if they choose the debt avalanche method. That doesn't mean Snowball is better than Avalanche, potentially, but you'd have to run the data. You'd have to run a calculation to say, is the debt Snowball method better for me, or is the debt avalanche method better for me? And maybe the math says the debt avalanche is better for me, but I'm someone that needs the quick wins. I'm someone that needs the motivation to keep going, so I'm okay, even though mathematically it doesn't make sense. Sometimes financial decisions don't always have to be the most optimal mathematically. Sometimes. Maybe it makes sense to do the debt snowball method because I need that motivation. It ultimately comes down to what motivates you. Are you someone that needs the psychological boost? Are you someone that needs the morale boost? Are you someone that needs the quick wins? Maybe the snowball method's better. Maybe you're someone that says, I don't care. I just want to do whatever is going to have me pay the least amount of interest over time. Maybe that's a debt snowball, but probably going to be debt avalanche. And I just want to look at the math and do what the math tells me that's the best. I want to save the most money over time. I'm going to choose debt avalanche. That's what it comes down to. understanding there's different methods to paying off debts. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, the end goal is to have your debts paid off. Now, how do we get there? Two popular methods, Snowball or Avalanche. Some people like Snowball, some people prefer Avalanche. But it's really up to you based on your personal situation, based on your personal debts, based on the amounts of those debts, based on the interest rates of those debts, and based on how are you motivated? Do you need the psychological boost? Do you need the quick wins? Or are you okay just looking at a Excel spreadsheet that says the math says you're going to save $700, $3,000, $75, whatever it is, over time if you choose the Avalanche method? What kind of person are you? That is really going to help you determine what is the best method for you for paying down your debts. At the end of the day, I believe if you truly want to get debt free, no matter which method you choose, Snowball or Avalanche, it is possible. I believe in you. I believe that you will get debt free if you have a plan, stick to the plan, and continue to make the right decisions to get debt free. That is my motivation for you. Thank you all for listening to the Financial Footprints podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.